Hello, welcome to Clickbait, and today we're talking about tripod heads, and more importantly, do you need to pay the big bucks for the brand name, or can you go for the cheaper own brand alternative? Is it worth spending the money, or are you just wasting it for a fancy bit of packaging and a nice box and a nice brand name badge? Let's find out. Alright, this whole sorry tale begins a few weeks ago when I'd just taken delivery of a shiny new Nikon Z62, and I was out doing some filming with it using my trusty old Manfrotto 029 head, which is about 20 years old. It's a solid chunk of cast aluminium, and it uses the big hex size plates for mounting the camera on there. But it does have a little issue which I've been developing for a while because it's so old and so well used. The little grooves that the hex head sits into aren't as pronounced and defined as they used to be, and it became possible to mount the camera on its little hex plate not completely in the thing, and that happened to me while I was shooting just literally outside my own house in the drive doing a bit of video work for somebody, and the camera fell off, and my week old, in fact not even week old, 2 or 3 day old Nikon Z62 managed to bounce on the ground and smash its LCD screen off, and also managed to bounce up again and smash the lens on the front of it. So that was good, which is why you've not seen a video about Nikon Z62s on here yet, when the entire rest of YouTube has done plenty of Z62 videos. I actually did film one about it, comparing it to the Z6 and to a mirrored DSLR as well. Unfortunately, because all my Nikon cameras were in that video, I shot it on the Fuji, and because I shot it on the Fuji, it decided to focus on the wall and the wall over there and the table, and nothing that was me was in focus because I love that Fuji. Anyway, right, so I then went and ordered, I should say, a Manfrotto 229, which is the later update of the old 029. What I was looking for was a direct replacement, a 3-way head, which is good for photo and video because it means that you can adjust one plane without affecting the other. So if you needed a pan or a tilt on a bit of video, you can. If you've got a ball head, which I do have ball heads for some photography, they're great because it's just one control, you can move in all 360 degrees. But if you're trying to do a nice steady horizontal pan or a nice steady vertical drop with the camera when you're doing video, you really want a 3-axis head, or even a video specific fluid damp 2-way video head. However, because of the world at the moment, coronavirus, Brexit and all the other fun stuff we're having at the moment, which is just making everything so much of a joy to be alive, that wasn't in stock, and I waited and waited, and I got fed up of waiting. So I went and bought the next alternative. So I was going to go for the budget option, which is the Calumet 3-way heavy duty head, which is I'm not going to say knockoff, but there are a lot of remarkable similarities between these two tripod heads, although they do the basic same functions, so it's not really surprising. Now the differences are quite interesting. On paper, the Calumet is definitely the better way to go. This one, the Manfrotto, is £200, £199.99, whereas the Calumet is only 80 quid, 79.99, which is, well, obviously less than half price and a bit of a bargain. They both have the same functionality in that they have a rotating base, they do forward and backward, and they do front and back manipulation, so you can position your camera in exactly the same way regardless of whichever tripod head you purchase, which is all well and good, everything looking peachy and rosy so far. And in addition to that, they both take exactly the same type of industry standard hexagon style camera mounting plate. And this is where it's interesting. The budget one suddenly starts looking better when you look at the payload, the capacity it can actually carry. The Calumet reckons it can take 20 kilos, which is immense, whereas the more expensive Manfrotto is only rated to carry 12 kilos, although I'm not sure what cameras I would be using realistically that would be weighing more than that. I mean, maybe a big sort of rail plate camera thing might be weighing a bit more than that, but hey, so when I realised I could get a better, potentially, tripod head for half the money, I was quite excited, so I went ahead and ordered it. However, having been a Manfrotto user for quite a long time, and sort of knowing the quality expectations I have of a Manfrotto tripod head, when I opened the box on the Calumet, I was a little bit disappointed. Now, to size them up, there is a noticeable difference in weight. This is 1500 grams, this is 1900 grams. This is actually a very heavy lump of cast aluminium and bits of brass and steel. And it's when you start looking at all the details, you start realizing where the money was spent. When you open up the packaging of both of these boxes, And it is interesting to notice how the Manfrotto comes in a really basic grey box with just their logo and a sticker on the end, because it's like buying, you know, Rolls-Royce or Ferrari parts. They know what they're selling. The Calumet one is very exciting. There's lots of spec written all over it. There's photos, it's glossy, matte black. It's a real, buy me, shouty kind of box. This one, it says on the front, designed for DSLRs, medium format and 4x5 cameras. Yeah, so big plate cameras. Offers maximum support, forward, side and pan tilt. Quick release style camera plate with safety lock, and there is a safety lock, I'll come to that in a second though. Built-in spirit level and strong magnesium alloy tooling. So these are in many ways identical, but when you start looking at the details, the head and the arms come separately. The Calumet is simply an arm with a washer in a little plastic bag. The Manfrotto is an arm, again in a plastic bag, but they've got brass end caps which make the whole thing look better and avoid binding. And to stop everything coming apart, because there are springs on a couple of these, there are little plastic caps to keep things in place in shipping, which is a very nice touch. Then you get to the actual movement arcs. On all of the movement arcs there is a scale, a gradient, so you can see how far you've moved or set the tripod. And so if you're wanting to repeat a shot over and over again, day after day, having moving the camera in between, which is not uncommon, in particularly in commercial photography and product photography, that kind of thing, you can. The thing is though, on the Manfrotto they are big and bold and easy to see, and the marker is easy to find, whereas on the Calumet it's a much smaller scale. The numbers actually are recessed behind this hinge on this one, and the marker point for the scale is, well, virtually impossible to see, to be perfectly honest. This one on the forward backward axis is easier to find the dot on, but even so it's still a less good scale to work with. Secondly, these handles on the Calumet, they're hard plastic. They feel like they're hollow, and they're hard plastic with just a little bit of rubberization, and they screw straight into the body. There's no cushioning, there's not spring loaded, and you certainly haven't got the brass anti-seize things on there. These though, on the Manfrotto, the 229, they are solid. It's like a rubberized plastic. It's much more tactile. It's actually got a texture in the surface, so you can use it when your hands are wet, because you may well be working in the cold, in the rain, in the snow, who knows what. But these are nice, grippy, solid things that are going to be usable in all conditions. And both of them do have a spirit level. They are virtually identical in many respects. However, the spirit level on the Manfrotto is nice and bright and clear, and the spirit level on the Calumet does feel a bit frosty and a bit more plasticky. Everything feels just much lighter weight, and this is where it suddenly starts to matter. Now, although both of these heads have got a release handle with a lock, so you can't accidentally remove the quick release plate by mistake or drop the camera on the floor. On this one, this is a metal handle but only a plastic release catch, and it is so snaggy it's almost unusable. I can't even unlock it right now. That is not a good feeling. You're going to be fighting that, and there is a potential that you're either not going to snap that in properly, or you're going to be fighting it and you're going to drop the camera trying to take it out of there. On this one, that is again a plastic release, but it's a much nicer mechanism. That has a big brass screw holding it in, as does this, but the mechanism itself is much smoother, and so you can pull that out, lock that and remove as many times as you want for the next 20 years, until it starts to wear out, of course. Whereas the cheaper one, it's an effort every time, and there is so much potential for that going wrong. So for that reason, for my money, I'm happy to spend the extra £100 and have grips that grip, scales that tell me where I've set the thing to, and most importantly, a locking release that's not going to cost me a camera. For the money, it is well made. I can't criticise it in terms of how smoothly the different axes actually do turn. It's nice and smooth. So there are lots of similarities here. The design is incredibly similar on both of these different tripod heads. They both move in virtually the same way. They both move from 30 to 90 degrees. They both feel nicely friction damped, but the Manfrotto is a bit stiffer, which is a good thing when you've got a heavy camera on top. They're both made of heavy duty cast alloy, but the grips on the Manfrotto feel so much nicer to use. The quality of the handles, the lock importantly, is better, and usefully this side axis handle is longer than the forward backward axis handle, which is something which may sound like a ridiculous thing to be pointing out, but if you're trying to find something in the dark, you can work out which way around the tripod is and which one you're undoing before you've messed up your settings. Now if you're on a budget, if you want to be spending less than £100 on a very heavy duty tripod that will take a lot of weight, then yes, I can say the Calumet would be okay. It will do the job, it's got the capacity to take a lot of weight. However, this sticky release means I don't think I would ever personally want to be using it on my gear, because I can feel like this is an accident waiting to happen. Whereas if you spend the extra money on the Manfrotto, the quality of every single part just feels so much better. Now a tripod head is something you'll keep a long time, literally decades, so it's something you don't want to be scrimping on and finding that you hate, because it's a long time to live with a bit of equipment you don't like very much. These things do look virtually identical, but when it comes down to the actual usage, the Manfrotto is just so much nicer to use. I don't think the cheaper one is worth it. Thanks for watching this super fast review of two very similar devices. For my money, I'm going to spend the 200 quid and send the £80 cheapie back. However, if you're on a budget, that will do the job, but maybe look to be changing up to the Manfrotto or something else similar not too long in the future. Thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please do hit like and subscribe. Join me again soon for more camera stuff.